if I told you that some of the richest people to ever walk this earth didn't wear suits or sit in boardrooms? They ruled from the shadows, pulling strings across nations with blood-stained hands and billion-dollar bank accounts. They weren't CEOs. They were kings of crime. From flying fleets of drug-filled jets to hiding fortunes eaten by rats, these men turned illegal empires into multi-billion-dollar businesses. Forget Wall Street. This is the dark world of the 7 wealthiest crime lords in modern history. And number 1, he made more money than Netflix, Twitter, and Spotify combined. Let's begin. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. First up, at number 7, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Born in poverty in Sinaloa, Mexico, El Chapo wasn't just a drug lord. He was a global logistics mastermind. His Sinaloa cartel didn't just smuggle cocaine. It controlled tunnels, submarines, private planes, even shipping containers hidden inside legal imports. At his peak, his cartel moved more drugs than any other in the world, supplying 25% of all illegal narcotics entering the US. And his wealth? Up to $3 billion. That's more than the GDP of some small countries. But what really captivated the world? His escapes. El Chapo broke out of 2 of Mexico's highest security prisons, once through a mile-long tunnel complete with lights and a motorcycle on rails. He lived like a ghost and ruled like a king, but his reign ended in 2016 after a dramatic arrest. Today, he's serving life in a US supermax prison. Still, the Sinaloa cartel thrives, and his legacy looms large.
How did El Chapo escape from a Mexican prison in 2015? In 2014, El Chapo was captured and placed in Mexico's high-security Altiplano federal prison. However, his cartel launched a daring escape plan. First, they purchased a piece of land near the prison and built a house as a cover for their operation. Over the course of 14 months, they dug a 1.5-kilometer tunnel that led directly to the shower area of El Chapo's cell. On July 12, 2015, taking advantage of his shower time, El Chapo slipped into the tunnel, jumped onto a modified motorcycle mounted on rails, and sped to freedom in just 2 minutes, making this one of the boldest prison breaks in history. However, in January 2016, El Chapo was recaptured in Sinaloa. A year later, in 2017, he was extradited to the United States and placed in ADI-X Florence, the most secure prison in the US, where many of the world's most dangerous criminals are held.
Next up, number 6. Known as El Mexicano. Why? Because he loved Mexican culture so much, he adopted it as his identity. Cowboy boots, sombreros, ranches, and all. But don't let the theatrics fool you. Gacha was a brutal, brilliant partner in Colombia's infamous Medellin cartel. He wasn't just Escobar's sidekick. He was a general in a war for billions. He helped flood the US with cocaine in the 1980s, building distribution networks from Florida to New York. His personal worth? Estimated at $5 billion. He invested heavily in weaponry, even financing paramilitary death squads to wipe out rivals and reporters. He once imported 30 tons of dynamite to bomb Colombian government buildings. To him, war was business, and business was booming. But his obsession with power was his downfall. After a major manhunt, he died in a shootout with the Colombian military in 1989. His fortune, buried in safe houses, ranches, and secret accounts, much of it never recovered.
¿Usted fuma?
No, yo no fumo porque soy deportista, yo juego fútbol. Inclusive he patrocinado varios equipos en Pacho, llevé a Millonarios Santa Fe a jugar a Pacho, le he dado oportunidad a muchos muchachos que vengan a la profesional, aquí a Millonarios, pero no han servido, pero de todas formas he tenido el interés de que me salgan unos futbolistas buenos de Pacho.
¿Por qué habla usted de Millonarios? ¿Tiene algo que ver con el fútbol?
Sí, hombre, no, yo soy un tercer socio de Millonarios, uno de los directivos de Millonarios.
Como Gonzalo Rodríguez, campesino de la vereda de Veraguas, 36 años. Una fortuna incalculable que, sin proponérselo, resultó, por lo menos en las páginas de la prensa, en el centro del escándalo más grande que haya vivido Pacho en toda su historia.
Number 5. Al Capone. Coming in at number 5 is the original American gangster, Al Capone. During Prohibition, Capone didn't just sell alcohol. He built an underground empire of bootlegging, gambling, and corruption that ran the city of Chicago. By the age of 33, he was worth an estimated $100 million, over $13 billion today. Capone's reach extended from city halls to police stations. He ordered murders with impunity, including the infamous Valentine's Day Massacre, which saw 7 rivals gunned down in cold blood. Despite that, he played the public like a violin, donating to charities and running soup kitchens during the Great Depression. To many, he was a villain with a smile. But the feds couldn't pin his violent crimes on him, so they got him on tax evasion. He spent his final years in Alcatraz, sick, broken, and forgotten. Still, his story defined the modern gangster image, and his wealth, power, and persona inspired generations of crime lords after him.
The richest criminal in history forgot where he buried the keys to his $1.5 billion fortune. Al Capone was known for his aggressive and violent tactics, such as blowing up stores who refused to buy alcohol from him. But on the other hand, these tactics led him to building a massive fortune. For example, one of his houses in Miami recently sold for $16.9 million. In order to keep his finances completely private, he stored a majority of his money in safety deposit boxes. Funnily enough, when he was sent to prison not for criminal activity but for tax evasion, he decided to bury the keys to these boxes that had all of his money. And when he was finally released 7 years after arrest, he was very sick and suffered from dementia. Every spot he dug up, he found nothing. His relatives even hired a hypnotist to try to trick him into remembering where he buried his fortune. But the keys were never retrieved.
At number 4, Ibrahim, the criminal mastermind who turned Mumbai's streets into his empire. Founder of D Company, a massive underworld syndicate dealing in drugs, arms, extortion, and terrorism. With an estimated worth of $66.7 billion, Dawood wasn't just India's most wanted man. He became an international fugitive with links to terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and Lashkar-e-Taiba. He's accused of orchestrating the 1993 Mumbai bombings, which killed over 250 people. And yet, he vanished. Despite international warrants and Interpol red notices, he's rumored to live in luxury in Karachi, Pakistan, under government protection. D Company still thrives today, involved in everything from Bollywood to real estate scams to smuggling routes through Dubai and Africa. Dawood remains a ghost, a billionaire fugitive whose story is far from over. Number 3 may not be as famous, but he's one of the most dangerous. Semion Mogilevich, born in Ukraine, now known globally as the Brainy Don. Unlike street gangsters, Semion ran his empire like a Fortune 500 CEO, complete with accountants, lawyers, politicians, and spies. His wealth, estimated at $10 billion. His operations span Europe, the US, and Asia. Arms trafficking, drug smuggling, human trafficking, stock market frauds, and even nuclear material sales. He used front companies and shell corporations to move billions undetected, while bribing officials and infiltrating governments. The FBI called him one of the world's most dangerous men. Yet despite an international arrest warrant, he walks free, allegedly protected by high-ranking figures in Russia. No guns, no glamour, just pure, calculated power. Amado Carrillo Fuentes. At number 2, the man who turned the skies into a personal highway. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, El Señor de los Cielos. Why that nickname? Because he operated a fleet of 22 private jets to transport drugs across continents. As head of the Juarez cartel, he trafficked thousands of tons of cocaine into the US, earning an estimated $25 billion. His operations were so vast, so refined, that DEA agents described him as one of the most elusive and sophisticated kingpins ever. But with power came fear. He knew his face was everywhere. So in 1997, he underwent plastic surgery to alter his appearance. But it went horribly wrong. He died on the operating table. 3 of the doctors who operated on him found dead in concrete barrels days later. His death left a power vacuum in the Mexican underworld, but his legacy, one of jet-setting crime, aerial dominance, and unspeakable wealth, still haunts the country today.
1997. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, a Mexican drug lord, undergoes plastic surgery in Mexico City to change his appearance. However, during the operation, he died of complications apparently caused by either a certain medication or a malfunctioning respirator. A couple months later, the 2 surgeons who performed the surgery were found dead, cased in concrete inside steel drums, with their bodies showing signs of torture. Fuentes was assessed to be worth around $25 billion, which would be $40 billion today.
I imagine I'd have a pretty shaky hand if I was the one doing the operation.
Yeah.
And finally, number 1, the undisputed king of cocaine. Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. At the height of his power, Escobar was worth between $30 and $60 billion. He made so much money, rats reportedly ate $1 billion of his cash every year. And he didn't care. Escobar's Medellin cartel supplied 80% of the world's cocaine, bringing in $420 million a week. He bought jets, submarines, islands, even his own prison, La Catedral, complete with a nightclub and waterfall. But Escobar wasn't just a drug lord. He was a folk hero and a terrorist. He built homes and soccer fields for the poor. He bombed airplanes and government buildings when they threatened him. He once offered to pay off Colombia's national debt in exchange for immunity. His war against the Colombian government left thousands dead. In 1993, after years on the run, Escobar was finally gunned down on a Medellin rooftop. But his name lives on, in music, TV, and in every drug empire that came after. He was the billionaire outlaw who ruled like a king, loved by the poor and feared by the world.
Pablo Escobar made $60 million every single day during the peak of his empire in 1989. Started as a streetcar thief, became history's richest criminal, worth $70 billion adjusted for inflation. His first major hustle was stealing tombstones, sanding off the names, and reselling them. At 26, he was moving 70 to 80 planes full of cocaine to America daily. Most insane part? He spent $2,500 monthly just on rubber bands to wrap his cash stacks. When his daughter got cold one night while hiding from police, he burned $2 million just to keep her warm. He killed over 4,000 people, including 200 judges and 1,000 police officers. Had his own prison built to his specifications. It had a nightclub, soccer field, and waterfall. The government let him because he threatened to kill their families. He offered to pay Colombia's entire national debt, $10 billion if they gave him immunity. They refused. His operation was so massive, he lost $2.1 billion yearly to rats eating his stored cash and water damage in his stash houses. Even bought his own airport just for cocaine flights. When he died in 1993, they found secret rooms filled with gold bars, empty vintage wine bottles worth millions, and letters from presidents thanking him for campaign donations. Still to this day, people randomly dig up his cash stashes in random locations across Colombia.
These 7 men redefined what it means to be powerful, feared, and rich. They didn't build empires in public, they built them in the shadows. But as history has shown, when your empire is made of blood and bullets, it's only a matter of time before it crumbles. So, who surprised you the most? Who do you think was the most dangerous? Let us know in the comments. And if you thought this was wild, wait until you hear about the most evil billionaires you've never heard of. Subscribe and stay dangerous.
Beneath this bathtub, a secret tunnel. So if you climb down the steps, you find yourself in the tunnel itself, and you can see it's been quite carefully constructed out of wood. You have to crouch a little bit, but you're quite mobile, and there's an electricity system running throughout it. The nearest other safe house from here is 3 kilometers in this direction. The constructed part of the tunnel ends here, and if you go through this door, you find yourself in the sewage system of Culiacan, an ideal escape route. And the tunnel system comes out right here in another safe house just down the road, and as you can see, it is a very similar setup to the previous one.
In all the houses, evidence of life suddenly suspended. The minutiae is often interesting: a child's slide, Christmas decorations, and a fondness for mayonnaise.
This safe house is perhaps the most significant of all of them. This is where Chapo Guzman escaped from when he was being pursued by Mexican Marines. They broke down this door and found they had missed him by 8 minutes. And this is where he fled to, through this bedroom and into this bathroom, where, as you can see, there is another escape hatch underneath this bathtub. Mexican Marines tell us they discovered this entire network of underground tunnels and safe houses when they arrested the head of Chapo Guzman's security.